Krishna gave that teaching in the Bhagavad Gita. And I just, for those who are non-Indians, non-Hindus in here, I just want to let you know that the Bhagavad Gita is a scripture that has been extolled enthusiastically by scholars and philosophers of every religious tradition from all across the world. This is it's not a Hindu teaching or an Indian teaching. It's a teaching about how to play your role in the world and what does it all mean. And it's something, again, I wish I had the names and the stories in my mind of who had said what. But if you go online and you literally, Google quotes on the Bhagavad Gita by Western scholars or something like that, you'll come up with dozens of them, of how the Gita gives the answer. So I just want to clarify that this is not about religion. This is about a way of life that is applicable to all and pertains to all and is beneficial for all. And he gives the answer to your question in it, which is, be a tool in my hands. Be a tool. Which is the exact same prayer spoken from the other way. Krishna's given it from the perspective of God, but it's the same prayer, if you look at it as from the perspective of the devotee, that St. Francis of Assisi prayed for. O Lord, make me an instrument of thy mercy. Right? So same teaching. Be a tool, make me an instrument. And there's one thing that's very important when we speak about tools and instruments. Nobody cares if they're made out of gold or covered with diamonds. It's utterly irrelevant. All that matters is their effectiveness. If I said to you, all right, I've got 2 hammers I can sell you. One of them is it's made of gold, it's beautiful, it's covered with diamonds, it's the prettiest hammer you've ever seen. But the end of it isn't actually flat, unfortunately, because, with the diamonds and things like that, so we couldn't really get it flat. There's so many diamonds sticking on it. And so when you actually go to hammer anything, it can't actually hammer the nail in because there's no flat edge. Alternatively, I've got this other hammer that is, it's made of metal or lead or whatever hammers are made of, and it's old and it's kind of rusty and it's not beautiful at all. Which would you like? Well, if you've got a nail that needs to be hammered, everybody's going to choose the second one. Unless your goal is to just take that hammer and stick it up on display on your wall. If you want it as a tool, not an art piece, it needs to be effective. And so as tools, as instruments, we have one duty and one duty only, which is be effective. It's not about be beautiful. It's not about be decorated. It's about be effective. And so he gives that teaching is be a tool. Tool in my hands, meaning do not think, because of course Arjun's job that he was given was fight this war, kill. Not an easy job to be given, especially when you're a good man. But Krishna's teaching is, you're a tool in my hands. You are not the giver of life or the taker of life. Get off your high horse. Who do you think you are? Really? You can take life? You're that powerful? Get off the high horse. You don't give life. You can't take life. At best, you're going to be a tool in my hands. That's the highest thing you get to aim for in life, and this is true for all of us. Our highest aim is a tool in the hands of the divine, which is why what we keep emphasizing over and over again is the connection to self, so that you know how you're supposed to be used. Because if you say to me, all right, give me a cookie cutter answer, how should tools be used? Well, it depends what the tool is. A hammer's job is very different from a chisel, which is very different from a saw. And of course, they're needed at different times in different ways. If you've got a nail in the wall, you need a hammer. If you've got a board that needs to be split, you need a saw. I don't even know what a chisel does, but I'm sure it does something effective. But when you have different needs, different tools are required. So our duty is to be effective and to be humble enough to be used by the divine. And the last part that Krishna reminds us is surrender. Surrender to me. Again, get off your high horse. This isn't about you. Because Arjuna, of course, then worries, well, what about my karma? My God, I'm going to, come back to earth in my next life. Is something really horrible? I cannot imagine a worse karmic fate than one who has killed his own family members. And the answer to that is, when it's about you, when you are the doer, you are the receiver of that karma. When you surrender, and this goes back to the story Pujya Swamiji told about Dada Vaswani on the Ghat. I was also listening. If I sat before you and I started swearing profanity or doing like racial slurs or all sorts of really horrendously violent, inappropriate things, and then I walked away, no one would come up and pick up this microphone and go, bad microphone, bad microphone. Right? Somebody lock that microphone up. We all understand intuitively that the mic is just a tool. It's not going to suffer the bad karma for what I have spoken through it. That's me. Now, that's taken us to kind of a different level that before we end, I do want to bring back just more specifically to what we've been talking about. But that's the teaching that Krishna gives, is surrender so fully to me. That's the only way to break this cycle of karma. Good karma, bad karma. If I sit here and I give a wonderful satsang and I inspire you and touch you up, you could say, well, that's good karma I'm going to get. Not the mic. Me, right, as the speaker. Well, that's the same problem. I'm no more the speaker than the mic is the speaker. I'm being used as an instrument like the mic is being used as an instrument. But as long as I think it's about me, that's where we get stuck. Now, just in conclusion, because you all have dinner and then an evening program, and I know we could do this all night, but I want to be mindful of time, is very specifically with regard to the authentic self and leadership and what that part of this discussion means in the world, is Arjuna begins the Bhagavad Gita by saying, this is too tough. I can't do this. Forget it. Duryodhana, his cousin, and his family were ruling an entire kingdom. through adharma, unrighteousness, darkness. Light needed to be restored to the darkness. Arjuna, for the karmic package, was selected for the task. He says, forget it. I'm not going to do it. Too difficult, too scary. I don't want the karma. I don't want any of this. I'm going off to the mountains. And what the Bhagavad Gita is about is the importance of doing your duty courageously. And for all of you, you've been put here. We've all been put here with our own dharma, with our own purpose. And sometimes it feels scary. Sometimes it feels too big. Sometimes it feels too small. But the importance of the message is the only way for your fulfillment, for your joy, for your peace, for your liberation, or whatever your highest goal is through fulfilling this duty with sincerity. That is what you are called upon to do. And it's not always glamorous. And it doesn't always feel good. It certainly didn't feel good to Arjuna. It wasn't glamorous for him. But there's roles in our life that we are called upon to play for dharma, for light, for truth. I mean, think about it on a different level. You get sick. You've got a horrendous bronchial infection. The doctor gives you a bunch of antibiotics. Well, on a very light level, that's violence. I mean, think of all the bacteria you're killing in your body every time you take an antibiotic. Those are life. But what we recognize is the importance of us moving on so that we can fulfill what we have been put on earth to fulfill. And if I need to take some antibiotics to do it, you take antibiotics to do it. Now, of course, this is not by any means a condoning of violence at all. The path that is needed today is the path of what we call the peaceful warrior. We have enough violence. We have enough people thinking they're killing in the name of light, thinking they're killing in the name of dharma. We don't need more of that. What our world needs today are warriors of light, warriors of peace, who are prepared to stand as light, as peace, as compassion, as oneness, as spirit, in a world that is fighting in the other direction. In a world that is fighting for separation, fighting for greed, fighting for all of that, fighting for us to utilize the world in a way that we lose it in just a couple generations. And to stand as beacons of peace, of oneness, of spirit. Those are the warriors that today needed. The warriors at the time of the Mahabharata needed something different. Our Duryodhana today, the one bringing the adharma who needs to be vanquished today, is greed and separation. That's the war we need to fight. Is a war against greed and a war against separation. And it's fought not by killing people, but by killing our own darkness, our own ignorance, our own belief in separation, our own egos, our own fears. That's the war that needs to be fought today. his father, and we'll conclude here, but I can't resist just bringing the last metaphor in. His father, of course, was blind, right? It was the blind king, literally blind, due to whose legacy the whole war happened, the whole adharma, lack of righteousness, lack of integrity, darkness came. The vanquisher of blindness is sight. The vanquisher of darkness is light. And so that which we are being called upon today, because today the blindness is not in one person who's the father of one king who's bringing about evil, but it's the blindness of the truth of our connection to each other, our connection to planet Earth, our connection to the unborn children of tomorrow. And as long as we allow that blind king to lead our lives, we lose the battle. And the earth as well. As warriors today, it's about how can we find the sight and bring the sight? How can we be the light and bring the light? And that's what's needed today.